Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Faith and Family First. I'm your host, Eva Andrade, and I'm here today with Pastor Landon Mauricio, and we're going to be talking about one of the things that people here in Hawaii really enjoy during the Christmas holiday season, and that's looking at the Honolulu Christmas lights and the wonderful nativities that are part of the experience. So you'll want to stay tuned. Let's chat about that. Landon, it's so good to have you on the show today.
Hello, hello. I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I think you're probably my youngest guest that I've had in a while, so I appreciate that you're going to bring some really good energy to the show today. So I want to do a couple of things. I want to tap your brain for a couple of things. First of all, I want to tap your brain on the wonderful ministry that you do in your area of expertise to help with people that have done videos. You do filming, you do all kinds of
Yes,
stuff. So let's talk about that first because I know that's a passion of yours.
sure. So I guess everything actually started when I was called to be a pastor when I was 13. And so at 13 years old, we started going to church as a family. Before that, we weren't necessarily going to church. We were CEO Christians, just Christmas, Easter, and occasionally. And my parents weren't doing well. They were going to get a divorce actually. And at 13, my dad said, "Hey, before we do this, before we get a divorce, let's try this church thing." And so we started going to a church as a family, and it was there at a Mother's Day service where God has called me to be a pastor. So the pastor was speaking. He said the next pastor for a church isn't going to be a 20-year-old man or a 30-year-old man. It's going to be a 13-year-old boy sitting in this service. And that's just when I knew at 13 years old that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And what's really cool is about 13 years later, that's when God, really appointed and said, okay, now's the time to start that church that I called you to do 13 years prior. And all throughout the middle years, what was really cool is like God prepared me for it. And so when I got called, my prayer was like, okay, God, like how am I going to practice doing these things? And God said, start a Christian club. And so at 13, I started a Christian club at Honolulu Middle School, carried that over to the high school. And so we had this really big kind of multi-church youth ministry. And so that's what Called was. Called was just a youth ministry. And from there, it kind of just kept growing and growing. And then about a year ago, God said, okay, now launch a church from what, you've been doing. And so that's kind of the ministry background. As you said, like we also have the business side of it. It's kind of two separate. I know it gets a little confusing because the name is so similar, right? Our church name is Called Church. And then my business side, the name is Called Presentations. And so that's my like for-profit business that I run. And so we do websites and apps and videos and things like this. But what's really cool is just seeing how God is working through both of that and how God really allowed the vision of being able to have both of them complement each other and not compete against each other was huge.
Yep, and I know, and I have to tell everybody, I have to give you a lot of thanks because you actually helped us because we used to have a show, Faith in Politics on Kahlo, and then the next thing I knew, we weren't able to use the Kahlo studios anymore, although the Faith in Politics still goes on, and so you actually stepped up and you let us come and use. You have a little studio there, which I actually loved your studio.
Yeah.
Full transparency, our co-host, which all of you know and love, Jim Hochberg, he just Jim had an opinion of where he wanted to do things and all that, and you were so busy, and the Lord was calling you to do anything. But for those of you that know, like our logo and all of that was designed by Landon, so we
Yeah.
appreciate so much. So you're definitely a part of our ministry too, even if the Lord has called you to do other things. Yeah, okay, so here in Hawaii, for those of you that are listening that may not be from Hawaii, so we've got this great thing that happens here, where we call it the Honolulu City Lights. And
Yes.
during Christmas, our downtown is just lit up beautifully with all these beautiful lights, and you can go drive through. Families will park sometimes and they'll go walk through. And so several years ago, one of our board members, Sandra Young, she had a vision that we should do more to promote the nativity.
Hmm.
And so there was a lot of work that Sandy was doing, reaching out to the government, saying, hey, we should do a nativity, at the state capitol. And I think Sandy was very beneficial, along with a few members. I don't know if I'm free to mention their names, but there were people in government that were also working to get that. So there was a couple of years where there was a beautiful nativity that was set up in the state capitol, and people could go see it. And then the idea got bigger to where there should be a lottery, right? To have these
Yeah.
nativities. So, and I know that you got involved with that. So why don't you jump in and talk about that? Because Jesus really is the reason for the season. It's why we do what we do. And so, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you have your fingers in that pie too.
Yes, yeah. And so, about a year ago when we launched the church, like our heart was just to be in the community and be able to like walk through doors that was very unique in preaching the gospel, right? And so and that's where I feel like God has kind of appointed us and my leadership team, because there's a lot of creative people and there's a lot of people from different like performing art backgrounds that we're able to do things where we're giving people the opportunity to experience Jesus and experience God outside of the church, the quote unquote building that people call the church, right? And I think for people like you and I, like we understand that the church isn't a building, the church is people. And so going out of what we call the walls of the church was huge for us. And one of those opportunities to do that was at this Honolulu City Light display. And so, it's really cool to even hear the background of what you're sharing. It kind of how it came to be. But like now, because it is a lottery, like pretty much anyone can apply to be one of 5 displays in the Honolulu City Lights that is privately sponsored, by an organization. And just so happen, for most of the years, it's always kind of faith-based Christian displays that gets these 5 kind of lottery points. And what's really cool is to be able to see just the creativity from the church and from people who are kingdom minded to really show like what you're saying, the reason of the season in a way of art. And so, last year we did a big kind of display called Believe. And so we just had a big word that said believe. And the nativity scene was kind of in silhouette in front of it. And there were 4 other kind of churches and ministries that had a depiction of, either like a nativity scene or just a scene from the Bible. This year, like I've yet to see like who was chosen for the 5, but we're one of the 5 as well again. And so this year we're doing something kind of different and cool, but we're making the nativity scene in the kind of realm or design of like a gingerbread house. And so it kind of looks like a big gingerbread display, and we have all the nativity, characters in it. But it's cool to see like people now taking pictures with that because they come and they see a cool display, but there's QR codes and different materials like written in the display that people are actually receiving the gospel and receiving, just the message, the true reason of the season through a simple display that everyone, like what you said, people park and they come and it's a whole December long thing and they are walking around and they see, right in the corner, the reason why all of that is happening.
I love this so much because when my daughters were little, we always did the drive through, downtown because it's just so, first of all, I love lights, so just
Yes.
having all the lights on all the buildings, and all of that. And then you have some Christmas trees, right, that are set up. I mean, it's just really, really pretty. But then to have this now where you have these displays that are
Yeah.
up intertwined, it's just so awesome. So if you are listening and watching and you've not done it yet, you've got to make time to go do this because I think it's really really going to be worth it. One of the things that I think would be really cool for people that are listening, right? Because as you mentioned, there are only 5, right, opportunities,
Yes.
right, to get the lottery. So I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't it be really cool? And Landon, maybe you guys could get on this, for all you young people listening, you guys have all the social media things at
Mm,
your I would love to have like a Finding Jesus hashtag,
mm,
where you start posting wherever you find Jesus. So if I'm
yeah.
driving on Eohi and I see a beautiful nativity, out in front of a church, that I would post it and say, hashtag Finding Jesus and show the picture,
Yeah. Yeah,
just to
no,
go.
that's super cool.
I mean, okay, so how this is why I thought of this, right? Remember that Where's Waldo?
Yeah, yep.
So everybody was doing that Where's Waldo things years ago. And then a couple years ago, I was joking around with some people about, where's Jesus, right? Because every
Mm,
time you start moving into these holiday seasons, right, you're in the store and you're seeing all of this Christmas decorations or whatnot all over the place, right? And I'm like, well, where's Jesus? Where's Jesus? And so,
yeah,
and so I started thinking, wouldn't it be really cool if we started telling people where Jesus was?
yeah,
you know,
for
and
sure.
and just like bombard social media, with this Finding Jesus, kind of a thing. But anyway, that's so cool. For those of you listening and viewing, you want to stay tuned because Landon is actually going to be out on the road and he's actually going to be interviewing some people. He's going to be showing you some videos. So if you're listening on the radio, you're not going to be able to see some of these beautiful things, but make sure that you go to YouTube, check out Hawaii Family Farm and find it so you can see these beautiful things. So, Landon, what are some other things that you think people should know about this wonderful opportunity?
Yeah, well, I think even before we get to the videos this year, I think let's kind of roll even the recap from last year. Like there's a couple minute recap just so that everyone can kind of see what happened last year with all the displays. And I think that's going to be really cool for you guys to see. So we'll probably roll that somewhere here. But what's another cool thing, from all of that you guys just saw, what's cool is our church, we kind of did something almost like a step further than just having the display, right? So the displays are cool. They live there all throughout December. But it's pretty much like you put in all this work, you build it, you put it up, and then at the end of December, you take it down. So our church was like, hey, what is a cool outreach that we can do to kind of go hand in hand with the displays? A lot of the displays, they have QR codes, which that's allowed, so people can scan. One of them, I think one of the displays has like a narration of the nativity. And there's different, like contact. You can see like what which organizations built which display. There's a rule in making these displays that we're not allowed to pass out or have like pamphlets or anything either on the display or people around passing out. So what we decided to do was, hey, why don't we have a team every single weekend all throughout December to go hang out at our display, wear a shirt that has like the display kind of like graphic on the back. And the whole purpose of that group of people would just be the hands and feet to take your family picture in front of these displays. Because that's always the awkward thing, right? Like you're with your family of 4 or 5, and then you're like trying to do the whole selfie thing and you can't get everyone in the
Yep.
picture. So we're
Yep.
like, hey, why don't we just provide the people to do that? But in that same opportunity of interacting with people, we can have those conversations like, hey, what are you doing for Christmas? Inviting them out to Christmas service, reminding them what's the real reason of this season. It was just another cool kind of outreach opportunity to go hand in hand to kind of even go a step further and saying we're not just making a display and leaving it. Like we want to be Christ on display, like there for people as well. I kind of have and I don't know if we have time to share this, but I have a funny story of how we even got involved with all of this last year.
No,
And
share.
last year, so this is, and I don't really know if I should be sharing this online. So we'll keep it general. But last year, it's a lottery, it's an application. And I was really praying last year, like, okay, God, if you want us to be one of these 5, like I want it to be very clear that like we were meant to be in this kind of like group that's building these displays. And loud and clear, kind of like from the Lord. I don't know if this is from the Lord or this is just my own thought process of just making sure that it's from the Lord. I thought like, hey, why don't we turn in the application late? So like there's this whole lottery application. We'll turn it in late. If we still get in, like the Lord wanted us to do it, right? Like if we don't, then I mean,
That's
then
a very big fleece there,
it
Landon.
is,
That is a
it is.
huge fleece. Okay.
And so like, but I was like, I want to, because we have a lot going on. I'm like, I want to be sure. And like, if we turn it in late and they still let us in, like, that's a pretty big sign that like, okay, God opened this door for us. So anyway, long story short, we turn it in about 5 days late, and I write an email saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know if this is allowed or even accepted. I know it's late. Here's our application. We'd love to be considered. Same day, I get an email back. Sorry, application was due 5 days ago. It's closed. We're not accepting applications. And that was it. So I was like, okay. I mean, I had peace with it. We're not supposed to do it. About a week after that, I get an email from that same lady that was like, oh no, applications are closed and all this stuff. And this person writes back to me and says, I have no, and I'm reading it a little aggressively, but in my mind, how it was written was like, I have no idea why. And what this person said is, but my boss said to let you guys in. And I don't know who the boss was. I don't know. And so that's how we got involved last year. And so it was, again, just kind of a clear, like, okay, the Lord wants us in this. He opened the door for us. And then this year we didn't do that. This year we turned it in on time, and we just, we said, okay.
I mean, the Lord, that's great.
And praise God, we got in again this year. But that's kind of, yeah, it's just really cool to kind of just see all of that. And then even again, just like now it's not just a display, it's people that's physically there, not just a QR code, but someone that's saying, hey, do you want us to take a picture? And we're interacting with people. I mean, that was huge. Just like the amount of gratitude people had just for us taking a picture. I mean, it was really cool to see.
Well, I think there's a couple of takeaways for people. So number one, if you're a pastor and you're listening to this or watching it right now, you can try to put in an application for next year. When this lottery becomes available, this is open. And to make it clear, we're being fair that this lottery is open to anybody. So if somebody from the Satanist church wanted to do it, they could do it. Although, I would hope that they're not celebrating Jesus's birth, because if they are, then they're in the wrong business. But, it's open. This lottery is open. And so you want to take advantage of that. Number one. Number two, Landon, what if somebody is listening right now? And I like to do this to all of my guests, right? There's some rich person listening going, well, I'm not really into this, but I would love to donate to this effort, or could someone donate to this effort? Like, could they donate to you or your ministry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's fully self-funded, and so our church is funding this display. If you are interested in giving to just what we're doing at Called Church, you can visit calledchurch.org. So that's CALLED church.org. There's a little giving tab there. And again, like I just love where we are as a church. Like we want to be the church that is introducing Jesus in a different way. And so this is one of the ways that we do it during Christmas time. During Easter, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard or seen, but we do like a big Easter event with we call it the Easter egg drop, and we drop thousands of Easter eggs out of a helicopter. And there's people that come and are like, hey, why are you doing this? Like, this is like, what does this have to do with Jesus? And literally our response always is like, it has nothing to do with Jesus, but it has everything to do with interacting with people who will never set foot in a church, and being the church and the hands and feet, and allowing people to experience the people of God before they walk into a service, and it's just it's not watering down the gospel, but it's just making it attractive to people. That's like, hey, look, this is a different way of celebrating, something that everyone celebrates, and I really believe, especially coming from the performing arts background, like I really believe that in every aspect of society, Christians should be like the leading force of events, the leading force of, just what we do, in the community.
Absolutely. And for those of you, stay tuned because now, you're going to actually get the chance to walk with Landon out into the community, and he's going to be talking to people. He's going to show you some of these ministries that are out there doing the work. And for those of you on the mainland, I'm sorry, I just got to tell you, eat your heart out. Eat your heart out because this is how we live and breathe and do ministry in Hawaii, and there's nothing like it. I mean, Hawaii no kaʻoe. I'm not going to try and make it sound like I'm not proud to be from this place because I am. And so, Landon, I'm going to turn this last 10 minutes or so over to you as you become the man on the street and you go out there and do some good work. And
For
for the
sure.
rest of you, make sure that you stay tuned because we're going to do a quick closing. All right. So enjoy the great tour from Landon.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, it's Pastor Landon from Called Church, and I want to take you on a journey through 5 Christian displays here at Honolulu City Lights. Let's remember that the prophecy of Christ's birth was spoken long before his arrival. So join me as we explore the birth of Christ and the Christmas message behind each display. We start with this depiction of the Nativity from Revelations 12. It reveals the spiritual battle surrounding the birth of baby Jesus, with warring angels dispatched to stop the dragon from trying to harm the world's Savior. The Father's hand delivering the baby from heaven to earth mirrors the profound love and sacrifice foretold in John 3:16. Next, we see in the midst of a holy night over 2,000 years ago, Mary, Joseph, and the Christ child Jesus. This unique birth reveals that Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. Narrated by Kahu Wendell Davis, we explore the story of Henry Opu Kahaia, a beacon of hope and God's love for the people of Hawaii. His transformative journey, marked by loss and faith, led to the spread of Christianity throughout the Hawaiian kingdom. In the Jesus is Aloha display, it tells a tale of love, or aloha. It reflects God's aloha in sending Jesus to the world and Jesus' love bestowed upon Henry Opu Kahaia, one of the first native Hawaiian Christians. One Love Ministries put together Jesus, the Light of the World display, keeping Jesus at the center of Christmas, illuminating the true meaning of Christmas, and spreading the message of love, hope, and joy to all. Here at Called Church, we emphasize the profound act of simply believing in Christ. It's a gift that brings everlasting joy, and as we reflect on this gift, let our hearts resonate with the true spirit of Christmas, embracing love and grace given to us through the birth of Jesus. So I hope you have time this month to come and check it out, take some pictures, but more importantly, share the true reason of this season. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Well, everybody, we really appreciate the hard work of Landon out on the street, and it's Christmas and it's time to share your holiday spirit with everybody. So make sure you like this video, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know every time we upload a new video, and we will see you all next week. Mahalo, everybody.